How is he now?
He is taking his time with his kids, and I'm really pleased that the media is respecting his privacy and he's getting this quiet time. Uh, Many Australians might have seen that he appeared in the Council of Europe Parliamentary Assembly addressing Parliament about what happened to him, but that's the only public appearance he's done. And in that appearance, he spoke about how he's still recovering and it's still very difficult for him. And as his wife, Sarah Assange, said, freedom comes slowly. So the fact that he's out of prison, he's still adjusting to so many of the impact on his mental and physical health and his perception from having been imprisoned for so long. And just little things that people don't think about when we're on the plane taking off from the UK. I was sitting next to him on the plane and he was just constantly looking out at the horizon, and he kept saying to me, Jen, I haven't seen the horizon for 15 years. For 14 years, whatever it's been. When the plane was about to take off, the engines, it was interesting. He said, I haven't felt, and it was such a small little thing, these little things that we take for granted in our lives, that for him, he hadn't been into a shop for over a decade, because he'd been in the Ecuadorian embassy and then in a high security prison. So I don't think anyone can really comprehend what that might feel like, coming back out into the world after being so isolated. But he's doing well, and as well as we could expect. And I'm just pleased that he's having this quiet time with his family and reconnecting with Australia and with nature. He's, enjoying the things that he used to ask me about in prison when I'd come home to Australia, and he'd want to hear stories of my time at home and my time on the beach and the things I was up to. And it was really heartbreaking to tell these stories of home, and a home that is both of our homes, Australia, but a home he couldn't enjoy. And so the fact that he's back doing that now is so great.
How did you get to work on his case?
I was introduced to Julian through my mentor, but it's interesting, just before, I'd been following what WikiLeaks was doing back in 2010. This is going back a long time. And I was interested in what they were doing. So they were publishing, they'd published the Guantanamo Bay files. And as a human rights lawyer, I was watching it. I also defend journalists and media organizations. So I was watching what they were doing, the things they were publishing, and they were making really brave decisions. They were publishing very interesting information, and information that was so important to the human rights accountability movement. And I was following this, and I remember my mentor, Jeffrey Robertson, calling me saying, Jen, what do you know about this guy from WikiLeaks, Julian Assange? And I said, well, he's Australian, like us. So my mentor is Jeffrey Robertson Casey, who's a famous Australian human rights barrister in London. And he said, well, we should get in contact with him. And I said, well, I'm pretty sure Julian Assange doesn't have a mobile phone. And it was interesting. He then wrote an op-ed for the Australian media saying, Julian Assange has just published this information with WikiLeaks. It's very important from a human rights accountability point of view. But the US government has already arrested the source and is criminally investigating these publications. So Julian Assange, who's an Australian citizen, needs our support. And if the US government goes for him, needs support. And this is a free speech question. And interestingly, some months later, he got in touch. He'd obviously seen the article, got in touch and reached out to us about representing him. And that was I met him first in September 2010. So I've been his lawyer for over 14 years and his longest serving lawyer. So wow. It was very satisfying to be there at the beginning and to see it through to the end.
How did covering his case change you as a person?
In so many ways, Sarah, in so many ways. Being around someone so principled and courageous, I think made me more courageous in myself and as a lawyer, as a person. I've learned so much through what I've seen in this case. It's an unprecedented case. As a lawyer, I started on this case when I was 28.
Oh, wow.
So I was at a very young age on one of the biggest cases in the world, where I've had to traverse so many political situations, geopolitics, legal cases in different jurisdictions. At some point, we were managing lawyers. I was managing a team of lawyers in 10 different jurisdictions, working on the range of cases that we were running to defend Julian, to protect him from extradition, and the various other cases that sprung up around that. So it's been absolutely fascinating. I've got a front row seat at one of the most fascinating and controversial cases of our time. It's, as a lawyer, the way that it's developed the skills that I have in terms of managing very complex legal cases, getting across lots of areas of law, understanding how law and politics and the media fit together, which is a very specific skill set, which I think is kind of amazing. But as a person, and what I've learned about the way that power operates is really interesting, and the limits of the law actually in cases like this, which is quite a I think for many lawyers is quite challenging and confronting, because as in the end, and I said this publicly and I was right, this case was incredibly politicized and it required a political resolution. And while we negotiated that plea deal only happened and was made possible because of the changing politics around us and the fact the Australian government supported it. And understanding that and understanding how that works, I think makes me a much better lawyer.